Hey, it's Vicky, and today I am here to talk about my quarter 3 reading stats. So I'm going to be talking about the books I read and the genres and do like a breakdown of that, and also talk a little bit about my goals and how those are going. So let's just dive in. Alright, so for this quarter 3, which was July, August, and September, I read 29 books, which is the most I've read in a quarter this year, so that's kind of exciting. Of those 29, or adding up those 29, 16 of them were print books, 2 of them were ebooks, 11 were audiobooks, for a total of 9,272 pages. I also had one reread this quarter, which was Sideways Stories from Wayside School, a middle grade book that I read with my kids that I read as a child. And then I had 4 DNFs, which is the most DNFs I've had in a quarter so far. But I don't get mad about DNFs because I'm like, listen, I wasn't enjoying those books, so like they just had to go. So the fact that I had 4 books going that I didn't want to read and I DNF'd them, I see it as a positive. And then if you guys remember, if you don't, that's okay, but if you guys remember, I set my reading goal for this year to 60 books, but I have since upped that number. I have decided I'm gonna shoot for 100 books this year. I barely did it last year, so I think it's a good goal to have. And so far, counting the books I read this quarter, I am now at 81 books. So I feel like hitting 100 is definitely possible. All right, so as far as genre breakdowns go, it's a mixed bag like it always is. The top 2 genres that I had this quarter with 5 books read each were graphic novels. So yeah, I must have just been in a graphic novel mood. And suspense thrillers also had 5. So I noticed I haven't read a ton of thrillers this year, so it was kind of nice to see that number go up a little bit. All right, then after that, I just read 4 like just general fiction, I would call just kind of, yeah, just general fiction, contemporary books. I read 4 middle grades, which is pretty much kind of the new thing for me now, is to always have some middle grades on my lists, because I've been doing a lot of read alouds with my kids. And yeah, so that I count those books because we read them and it counts. And then I had 3 horror books, which usually horror is like at the top, so to have horror kind of in the middle was interesting, but it's fine. I'm fine with it. And then I had 3 literary fictions. I had 2 fantasy novels, which is usually not a genre that you see very much on my list, but hey, there it is. And then I had 2 YA horror novels, and I differentiated between them because they are kind of 2 different genres, but if I were to combine them, I would have had 5 horrors, but I decided to break them up because I always like to kind of differentiate between YA and adult, and the same with like middle grade and adult. I like to kind of keep them separated. And then I had 1 historical fiction, so I haven't read a lot of historical fiction this year either. So I don't know, maybe the last quarter of the year there will be more of those. And then going into favorite books of this quarter, I had 5 5-star reads, which is pretty good. 3 of them were in September though, so they all kind of were crowded at the end of the quarter, but that's pretty good having 5 5-star reads. But my favorite of the quarter, it's kind of a toss-up. I really loved Burnt Offerings by Robert Marasco. This was just a great horror novel. It had everything that I look for in a horror novel. It had creepy scenes, it had a lot of tension, suspense, and it had more to say than just like, boo, let me scare you. Like it had, it had depth to it, talking about this family that was troubled, and it also had a very satisfying ending in my opinion. But another favorite that I think is probably a close second was My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This one just really has stuck with me and has just given me a lot to think about, and I just loved the writing. I loved the main character, Vanessa. I just really connected with her on a lot of levels, and it was just really good. All right, so now we're gonna talk about my goals and do a little bit of a check-in there. Like I already mentioned, I have upped my reading goal to 100, and I am now at 81 books, which is good. I feel like I'm gonna hit 100 It would be awesome if I did. So yeah, I think that's gonna happen. I had another goal at the beginning of this year to read more from my Kindle, and so far this year I have read 4 Kindle books, which is not great, but I did, and at the end of Q2, make a conscious decision to put an ebook on my TBR every month so that I am definitely reading 1 Kindle book each month, and that has kind of been working. So I think I'm gonna keep doing that. And also, I haven't really purchased any ebooks this year that I can think of. I don't think I've purchased any. So I'm not like adding books onto the Kindle and making the TBR even worse. So that's a good thing. But yeah, I definitely think I could do even better. But I think for now, making sure I read at least 1 a month is a good goal. All right, I also had a goal this year to read more poetry, and to kind of like, I've kind of met that goal because I have read a couple of poetry collections, but to really like bring it in, I want to read at least 1 more collection before the end of the year. And I have 2 on my TBR, so it's probably going to be one of these 2 that I'm going to read. The first one is Serious Concerns by Wendy Cope, and the other one is Field of Flowers by Charles B. So I'm going to try to read at least one of these before the end of the year, and then I will definitely reach that goal. So every year I pick a big book that I'm gonna read every year, and this year I chose The Terror by Dan Simmons, and I have not read it yet. I had intended to read it at the beginning of the year during the winter time, but it just didn't happen, and so now I'm going to definitely be reading it in December. This is a book that I have tried to read before. I actually still have my bookmark in here. I made it 250 pages in and decided to stop, but it is one that I still want to attack and complete. So I was physically reading it the first time, so this go around when I read it in December, I am going to be listening to it on audio, and hopefully that will be a better reading experience. So yeah, I want to read this in the wintertime because it takes place in the Arctic, so it's super cold and like isolated, and I like to have like the seasons sort of match my reading, so that's why I'm gonna do that. So yes, wish me luck. I'm going to be reading this in December. I always also try to read the books from my shelves when I choose my books every month, because I do have about, I think the last time I counted, I have about 85 to 90 unread books on my shelves, and I don't want that number to get out of control. So I try to make a conscious effort to read the books I have purchased. And so this quarter, of the 29 books that I read, 18 of them were books that I pulled from my shelves. So that's good because it was more than half, and that's all I can ask for, right? I also made a goal at the beginning of the year to read at least 3 classics, and I have read 2. So I just need to read 1 more, and honestly, I already have one lined up. That is going to be my final like episode, if you want to call it, for my 100 Epic Reads vlog that I've been doing this year. I have 1 more episode to do, and I can tell you that the book I chose for that video, because I've already chosen it, is a classic. So I will definitely read that one and complete that goal by the end of the year. And then the last goal that I made for 2022 was to read 5 Stephen King books, because I need to get through his entire backlist. And so I have read 2 so far, because I'm only counting the ones that I have never read. So I did a reread of Dolores Claiborne, so that one doesn't count towards my 5. So I have read 2 new to me Stephen King's, and then I am currently finishing up Fairy Tale, his newest release. I have less than 100 pages to go, so I'm definitely gonna finish this one, and this will be my 3rd for the year. So I have 2 more to read, and I can tell you because I am trying to read them in order of publication. That's just the way I want to do it. I don't know why. It's just the way I'm doing it. But so the next 2 that I have to read by the end of this year to meet my 5 books by Stephen King goal is Bag of Bones and The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. So I'm going to be reading these ones by the end of the year so that I can reach that goal. All right, guys, so that is it. Those are my quarterly stats for Q3 of 2022 and a little bit of a goal check-in. Let me know down below any of your fun reading stats that you want to share. I would love to know. What was your favorite read of the quarter? So this quarter, like I said, was July, August, and September. Let me know what your favorite book was. And why not, since a lot of my goal kind of check-in for this video was talking about like what I need to do by the end of the year to get all these goals done, let me know a goal that you have that you want to complete by the end of this year, because we have 3 months left. Oh my gosh. All right. So that's it. I hope you guys are having a wonderful week, and I will talk with you soon. Thank you so much for watching.